Welcome back to 40 Reviews. It's me again, Professor Pretentious. You just can't get rid of me. We have a new review today, Dangerous Animals, directed by Sean Byrne. I've been looking forward to his follow-up for a while. I saw the trailer for this when we went and saw Bring Her Back, and I was like, okay, this looks pretty cool. Shark attack, serial killer movie, and then I saw that it was Sean Byrne. I was like, what? And I was pretty excited. I'm going to say that it's a pretty modest return for him after Devil's Candy. This one's more akin to The Loved Ones than his last film, although it's a little bit more simple and streamlined. It doesn't quite follow the same gonzo lunatic tone of The Loved Ones, and it isn't as sadistic, but it does conjure the same metaphoric brutality of its title, which is outstanding. It's a great title, I gotta say. Starting to kick off this summer horror season, it's a pretty effective one. I'll also say I have a pretty low bar for shark movies. But my guiltiest pleasure horror movie is a shark movie. This one's even lower on the shame scale than my love for the House on Haunted Hill remake. It's somewhere between Jaws and Sharknado in quality. That's right. It's 47 meters down. I don't know why. It is such a painfully dumb movie in so many ways, but I don't know. I dig it. There was that movie that came out a few years ago called Fall, which is sort of like a better version of that movie. It's another survival horror one, but 47 meters down for me, it's a good dumb shark movie. For creatures that are known for being pretty dumb, it's a good dumb shark movie. When I went to Wikipedia for the list of natural horror films, I noticed it wasn't listed under the sharks category. They did it dirty. They even put its sequel up there. That one sucks. So I went in and I typed it in and added it. I cited it and everything. Probably more time than the movie deserves, but there it is, right there now. I'd say it easily makes my top 10 shark movies. I'm embarrassed to say I haven't seen that many, though. I haven't seen Open Water, I haven't seen The Shallows, haven't seen The Reef, haven't seen Deep Blue Sea, The Meg. Damn, there's a lot. I'll have to check out some more to legitimately be able to write down this list. Before that, I can say it makes it on there. Okay, beyond the positives, which I'll get into, the thing that stood out to me, even as I was watching the movie, was there were some parts that were just a little on the nose. The dialogue in this film is a little weaker. It's a little more didactic. I'm not going to say it doesn't utilize... Okay, here's my dangerous animal right here. It doesn't necessarily go for exposition, but there's some moments where the characters will sort of info dump this kind of nerdy thing, and that's a little bit where the screenwriting peeks through. The screenwriter, there's nothing wrong with it. One of it for me is Creedence Clearwater, which is great. Hometown El Cerrito Heroes, hell yeah. But the notion of the two main characters, Zephyr, the surfer, and Tucker, the serial killer, being the lone survivors of their lives, could have worked better if it wasn't so obviously and repeatedly stated. So the characters are relatively thin, but oh my god, really? Do you both need to be here? Okay. So something that's notable about this movie is, again, you'll probably see this theme throughout, the simplicity of it. It is a tight 90-minute movie, but even considering that, the characters are a little thin. Jack Courtney as Tucker really anchors this film. His bulk and his cold stare effectively evoke the toothy mammal in the film. He has a really simple motive and modus operandi with a precision that gives us enough detail to understand but also loathe him. He's magnetic and repulsive in his sort of meat-headed simplicity. It finally giving Jack Courtney a good film that he can really helm with humor and intensity. So it's good to see him finally leading in a really juicy role. God, he can sink his teeth into. Oh, fuck, it hurts. It hurts to hear it come out of my mouth. With Zephyr, the primary final girl, the primary protagonist of this film, we get a really typical sort of lone wolf, no strings attached bad girl, which the actress Hassie Harrison breathes enough life into to help drive the film and match this antagonist. And the two characters both have these pivotal moments in their life that they refer to that cause them to seek out the type of power that drives them throughout the narrative. They give us really just enough. It's very, very lean. But I do, again, feel like it works. So this one is a lot like his other movies. There's a lot of high brutality to it, but I'd say lower gore. The murders and the violence are often blunt force, and much of it is implied, though there are a few very grisly reveals in the story, but I was surprised to see a little bit less of it. However, it didn't make the film any less effective, I will say. For example, this one isn't too much of a spoiler, but this will near the beginning of our spoiler part. There's a reference to Tucker from his neighbor that he rarely runs out of supplies, and it suggests that the chum that he has could in fact come from some of the remaining victims that he has, or the victims' remains. But this one's far more implied. It kind of is like how in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's that close-up shot of the barbecue, a grilling barbecue in the spit. It feels a lot like that level of subtlety, which I definitely appreciate. This one sets up for a really good summer movie. If I recall, Jaws was also released in the summer, so good on them for knowing the time period to do it. If you liked Sean Byrne's The Loved Ones, then you'll probably really like this one. I wanted to like The Devil's Candy, I'll say, and I did really like parts of it. It was a little bit less focused. It focused a little more heavily on mood, I would say, than plot. But it did have an interesting kind of sinister, the movie sinister feel to it. And of course, I loved the addition of, the band Sun, their sort of doom soundtrack to it, of course. But it was almost more like I wanted to like it more than I actually did. However, it's been 10 years since he put out a movie. That movie, I looked back and saw that it was in 2015. So as far as a return to form, this is a really modest one, but it's also incredibly well balanced. Definitely has the beautiful cinematography from Sean Byrne and just a really tight, almost journeyman style to the film itself, and some great performances. So there are some of those sticking points I have with the script, but as with horror is the case, you have some good performances, you have a good enough script, and you have some style, and you can really stretch that out as long as you will. So for those of you who aren't going to hang around for the spoilers, I definitely recommend going and seeing it. There are a lot of good horror movies right now this week in theaters. So if you're going to go, if you're like me and you've just gotten your first week off out of school, go see some of these 4 that are out right now. So, ready? Let's spoil some stuff. One of the things that I like about this is it seems to fit into this 0-star business film subgenre in which there's this front. So there's usually a serial killer and they have a business front which they use to lure in victims, and somehow they remain in business. So for me, this is Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre and his Eaten Alive, which this one resonates most with me for this one. The concept of being fed to the alligator. Yeah. The other ones are Motel Hell, the Firefly trilogy, Rob Zombie's Firefly trilogy, From Dusk Till Dawn, and if you haven't seen it, the French extreme film Frontiers. And it still does bring about this inconsistency to me, which is like, how long can they continue to operate? It's pretty rare that one of these movies actually goes through the motions and shows us how this happens. Do they change their identity? Do they change the location? How do they keep bringing people in? I would love to see a movie that does that. Now, a lot of the ones that I've listed here of the 0-star business films, they don't need to. They're horror comedies, and a lot of times they're a little cheaper. They stretch credulity a lot. In this one, he has this boat neighbor who brings him victims. And the boat neighbor, I assume throughout most of the movie, does know. And he's just kind of a sleazy dude, and he's paying him enough money that he's okay with it. But it turns out near the end of the film, we realize he actually doesn't know. And I'm like, how the fuck does this boat neighbor not figure it out? Like, how does he not realize? Because he shows the amount of tapes that he has in there. Tucker shows the amount of tapes, and he's killed probably like 20 or so people. Like, at some point, you start to wonder why there are no repeat customers, even if they are all tourists, and where these people start to go. But for me, the features don't even need to be digressions in the film. The beauty of this one is of its brevity. But I feel like this can be done with some elegance in a film. I've seen it done with elegance in thrillers before, maybe not so much horror, and that might be the dividing line between what people would see the trashiness of horror compared to the precision of the thriller script. There are some beautiful mimetic moments in this. Sean Byrne definitely shows a great deal of restraint and simplicity in his direction. It shows, I hate to use the word, it shows a maturity in his ability to let the plot, let the actors speak for themselves, and to just enhance what's already there. Much of the time, his choices in framing are the things that just really subtly rephrase elements of the dialogue or the earlier plot. One of these is the process that Tucker and the Tucker experience that he creates as part of his ritual for the serial killing. His procedure of making the fly out of the victim's hair really highlights the concept of the hunter. It makes total sense. It again is really close to being on the nose that he uses a fly lure to make what he would for fishing. But it of course fits in very well with the equipment that's on his ship, the world that he lives in. It just highlights that concept of the hunter enjoying those parts of the process and really the precision of the sadism that he enjoys. And Sean Byrne does the cuts and the sound incredibly well in here to bring you into that moment, to bring you into the savoring element that this Tucker character has. It also feels like it's mirroring the process of chumming the water with blood. And it feels like it's like a bit of a tease or an appetite stimulation for him. He's always doing it while he's eating and drinking a glass of wine. It really evokes that, I feel like. There's another point in which he, in the beginning of the movie, shows that he utilizes the cage, which is common for people who are swimming with sharks. So there's a moment in which, near the climax of the movie, when Zephyr has shot out some of the flares into the dining area, and she's locked herself into the kitchen, that you see behind the diamond-shaped grate that he's shaking it, and it immediately struck me at that moment, oh, this is like the shark. And that's a really nice, kind of clever connection to it. Another one is he talks about the marlin, and he goes into great detail monologuing about this marlin, which again is something that I feel like could have been done a little bit more subtly. But it does relate to his final death when Zephyr shoots him with the harpoon, and he's essentially stuck to it, and he's on the line. That, to me, was a really nice mimetic similarity between the two. The other thing you also notice is that he was at his final death, when he's bit by the great white, he gets bit on the exact same side of that initial shark attack wound that he got when he was a little kid, the one that he survived, that sort of made him feel all-powerful. You also see that she gets, in yet another reversal near the end, she gets caught up in the line, and she gets dragged out to sea after him. That her fate is tied up with him because the two of them had this sort of same character defect. The interesting thing about her character as a surfer feels very much what the little that I know about surfing does tell us, that it requires this sort of steady balance, this improvisation and a stillness, which is something that's constantly evoked by her about what you need to do, and when the victims are submerged in the water, that the victims themselves need to remain still, So, because the shark's vision is triggered by movement, and there's something that they never actually say, really. She says, remain still, but she doesn't say why. And I really like that because it's playing with the sort of common knowledge that we have about sharks. She herself is definitely, as this surfer, steady, focused, able to improvise, able to ride this wave that this film produces. There are just some outstanding reversals and plotting in it. Nobody gets away easily in this. There are some super easy, barely inconveniences thrown in, like the fin key for the surfboard being thrown out the window, or Moses stumbling on the footage of Zephyr's kidnapper on the same night, and really, for me, the climax where Zephyr is holding her breath underwater for a very long time, even for, say, a surfer, as this great white shark passes her by. And she's able to sit there still, and the shark comes by and it's brandishing this scar from this previous encounter, which is why it is too scared to go toward her. But get it? The shark is also a survivor. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So those moments to me are some of the ones that detract, but the use of reversals throughout the movie is outstanding. It just keeps ratcheting the tension up and giving you that whiplash that thrillers do at their best, really, even with a script that brings about some of the cliches. And I would say in this one, like, the beats in the film are cliche. Like, we understand, we know where it's going to go, we even know where some of the reversals are going to go, but the content in it is really riveting, and that I appreciate. The ride is brisk, and it's definitely well worth the price. I would put your money into this one because Sean Byrne is a filmmaker to continue to watch, and we want to keep supporting that Oz filmmaking, that Oz horror tradition. We want to really pay them their due because they're making some great movies as of recent, and frankly, since the 70s, pretty much. If you're looking forward to it, you're looking forward to a good, chunky, bloody shark movie, go and see Dangerous Animals. This is 40 Reviews. Again, I'm Professor Pretentious. I'll be seeing you throughout the summer. Thanks for watching. Bye.